Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in opposition to this bill. And you know, go figure, I might want to say that 3 or 4 times. That would be opposition. That would be a no vote, not in support of this bill. The reason why is really simple, and it comes down to that reasonableness piece of this puzzle that I think others have spoken to. But I actually think that it might be worth taking a trip down to my office. On the bookshelf in my office is a book I've mentioned here before. And that book is 3 Felonies a Day. Any of you who've ever heard of that book, it's really about the sort of the overprescription of laws that we have in this country, and that often people aren't aware of laws that have been passed that affect them. And so the theory in that book, and if we could have a little quiet.
Members, it's getting a little loud in here. Please direct your conversations off the floor.
The premise of that book is that there are a lot of laws that we're unaware of, and that basically any given time, any given person in this country is committing 3 felonies a day that they just don't know about. Whether it be they waited a day late to register a recreational vehicle, or whether or not they took full-strength beer into a federal park. That used to be a thing. All of those things are this complex web of laws that we don't always understand. So I participate on something called a 3-gun event team. Representative Will is a member of that team. We have another member of that team. And to participate in that activity, it requires 3 different types of firearms. The very first firearm is a semi-automatic shotgun. So that is pretty much looks like an AR type gun, but it's really just a 12-gauge shotgun. And every time you pull the trigger, it fires around. The second firearm that we use in those competitions is an AR type semi-automatic pistol. And we shoot sort of close and medium range targets with that. And then the last is a true 5.56 or 223 AR platform that we shoot medium and far distance targets with. Okay, so here I go to a competition, maybe in Representative Rich's district. If I leave Loveland to go to Cameo, which is out by Grand Junction, and I leave Loveland and I head down I-25, and I stop for gas. Well, I might stop for gas in Longmont. Longmont might have a different rule about the kind of firearms that I'm allowed to possess there. So suddenly, I'm standing there, I'm pumping gas into my car, and along comes a police officer who may or may not be there to see me, but may see my cracked windshield and say, hey, maybe we ought to have a conversation with this person. That conversation might lead to, let me see what you have in your car. What's that big black box right there? And I say, well, I'm heading to a shooting competition. Right there is an AR-style rifle and a shotgun and a pistol. And those are banned in Longmont. So I get a ticket. I get a ticket for getting gas in the wrong town. I go a little further down the road, and I have to stop and fix a flat tire, let's say in Avon. And I stop in Avon, and I'm fixing that flat tire, and a state trooper shows up, and he says, hey, can I put on my lights and stop traffic for you? Hey, what's in that big black box? And now I get another ticket for stopping in Avon, because how on God's green earth could I know what every single one of those locales had for a gun bill? This is the rationality of where we come to the bills we pass, where we have to be careful of the tangled web we weave of how on earth are normal, everyday citizens, law-abiding citizens, supposed to navigate a world that changes just on the crossing of a line. You know, the flat tire I get in Avon, maybe had I pulled over 100 yards before that, I would have been on the other side of city limits. I'm on the same road, I have the same truck, I have the same possessions. Why does 300 feet now make the difference between me being a criminal and not being a criminal? And this is nothing to the sponsors, this is really to just all of us. Common sense should dictate the things we do. And the reasonableness of the laws and the things that we do and the way that we put these into place have to be a consideration. Have to be a consideration not just of what we would like and hope to achieve, but also what we expect out of our citizenry. Because our citizens, by and large, are people who want to follow the law, if they know what the law is. Are we going to require a placard? And then I know that 270 feet ahead of me, I better stop just shy of that, and I better slam on the brakes, which might actually put me at some risk of veering into the ditch, but I've got to stop before I get to that sign, because that sign says that I might break the law in Avon. But hold on a minute, I fix my flat tire and I go merrily on my way, I'm going to cross that line anyway. So now suddenly, do I have an allowance to drive on the road? Or is my allowance to drive down the road, my freedom of movement in a country that gives us freedom to do all the things we want to do, is now my freedom of movement restricted because something I carry in the back? Number one, that doesn't make sense. Number two, that's not fair. That is not a reasonable expectation for Hugh McKean to have driving down the road, heading to a perfectly legal, authorized event, and not knowing what encumbrances I might encounter. That is not reasonable, it's not fair, and it's not right. So now, do we need to post detours? Is that where we're going with this? Is that the next step down this road? Is that if, by chance, you're heading to Cameo today, Mr. McKean, you're going to need to take this road around town. And then I can plan my day, because maybe that adds 3 or 4 hours. I don't know. But quite literally, what I don't know is what I don't know. How can we hold people accountable for what changes from one foot to another? It's not just a no vote on this bill. It's a vote for common sense. It's a vote against something that doesn't make sense. We just heard that there's a lot of hope in this bill. But there's a lot of hope that we have better sense than to just pass a bill to say, well, anybody can make up their minds on this, and now it's going to affect people in a negative way. This is an easy no, folks. This is an easy no.